Welcome back, and with a month on more of farmers protesting now against those farm bills, there are expectations that from the budget we might be looking at some favor coming in for this sector. There could be steps and funds allocated for a seamless implementation perhaps of these farm loans. But what else is the farm sector really looking forward to from this budget? For that discussion, we are now joined by Mr. Siraj Chaudhry. He's MD and CEO at NCML. Mr. Chaudhry, hi, thank you so much for taking time. What is your expectation, first of all, on the farm bills itself? Are you expecting any clarifications, more steps being taken, more funds being allocated to ensure implementation, or is the government going to steer away and look at other things?
Thank you, Manisha. Good morning. Happy to be with you. The farm bills obviously have been drawing a lot of attention, and for the right reasons. I feel that there are three bills. Unfortunately, all of them have been clubbed together. But the reality, I feel, is that two of them, which is essentially the Essential Commodities Act and the contract law, farm contract law, are not really something that should have come under so much scanner and protest, because they're not really, if really gone into the details, affecting the farmers or putting their interests at risk. The APMC bypass laws do have concerns for farmers in certain parts of the country, and I think a solution could be essentially leaving that part of the legislation to the state governments for implementation, because agriculture, the reality is very different in different states given the different soil conditions, the agroclimatic conditions. So that is one. But coming back to what can be done, one thing which I firmly believe that we have an economy which is in trouble at this point of time, particularly ravaged by the COVID event, as well as now the whole recovery process. From the agriculture sector, one element that I could suggest is that the issue price for grain that is being issued under the National Food Security Act, I think needs to be increased. And I'm not saying it purely because the government needs to generate more revenues or reduce its loss in this activity. But what really happens is that when this free grain is distributed across the country at such low prices, it actually impacts the price recovery for the farmers who do not fall under the government procurement scheme. So it is actually a burden on the farmers. And I think that price needs a review. There is a clause for that in the statute, and I think that is something that needs to be taken up under current circumstances, both from a perspective of increasing government recoveries or earnings, and also from bringing some relief to the farmers. Secondly, specific to the warehousing sector, the GST on is exempt for warehousing, but there is no exemption for all the other accompanying services like weighment, testing, fumigation, everything that goes into managing a warehouse. So therefore, there is no input credit. So while the government's intent in freeing up warehousing from GST was to reduce the cost of warehousing, the reality is that it doesn't solve the problem. So maybe an imposition of GST of 5% on warehousing, where this input credit can be taken in, will be helpful.
Sure.
Finally, I would add two more points. One is that India does have a large and thriving agriculture which we need to take to the world, and there needs to be a concerted effort between the government and the private sector to build the brand for Indian agriculture produce and food products outside India.
Sure.
This is not going to happen only with the private sector. There has to be an effort which includes the government. These could be by highlighting the GI factors, the nutrition elements, the sustainability elements
Siraj,
of Indian produce.
Siraj, I also wanted to put in a point on the farmer producer organizations. This is something that the government in its budget had spoken last year as well, and there was some allocation of funds. And we do understand that there are 5,000 FPOs perhaps on paper. Do you think there could be a push coming in from there? Because as far as the agri bills go, the FPOs is something that the government would also need to promote or support from here.
Yes. So from a taxation perspective, a MAT exemption, MET exemption for the FPOs for up to 15 years would be useful, because I think this process of setting up FPOs and getting them to stand on their feet and thrive will take a much longer time. It is an element where there is, trust building, educating, and then carrying the farmers or the FPOs representing the farmers to the market. So the whole effort on marketing. It is a step in the right direction. It is needed for a country which has such a large population of small holding farmers but it will take time, and it will require a lot of hand-holding by the government as well as the private sector. Private sector, obviously, at this point of time is suffering from a lack of trust with the farmers given the current environment, which I think is not entirely justified. But at the same time, there would be greater support required from the government for getting the FPOs closer to the market. There has been the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, which certainly should help in sort of improving the supply chain situation for these FPOs if they actually take the benefit of it and go and invest in storage. But the point remains that, yes, success of the FPOs are going to be critical for a lot of initiatives that the government is trying to roll out, specifically under the three.
We note your point, sir. Appreciate you joining in fact, giving us that view. Thanks so much for stopping by. Well, on that note, though, we need to completely, we run out of time, so we need to wrap up on the show. You stay with us. Business Lunch comes up next.